The night after Christmas should have been peaceful. Families were still basking in the warmth of the holiday, children playing with their new toys. But for me, it was the night everything changed. The call came in just as I was about to clock out. A possible abduction in Boulder, Colorado. A wealthy neighborhood, no signs of forced entry, and the victim, a 6-year-old girl, missing from her own bed. As I drove to the scene, something about it all seemed off. I arrived at the sprawling Ramsey home early on the morning of December 26th, 1996. It was a mansion, brightly lit with Christmas decorations, but the atmosphere inside was chilling. The parents, John and Patsy Ramsey, looked distraught, but there was something odd about their reactions. Patsy had found a ransom note claiming their daughter, JonBenet, had been kidnapped, but the demands didn't make sense. It was handwritten, 3 pages long, and asked for a sum of $118,000, the exact amount of John Ramsey's recent bonus. The note claimed the kidnappers would call, but they didn't. Something didn't sit right with me. Why leave a note if there was no plan to follow through? The house was full of friends and family when we arrived, making it hard to secure the scene properly. But we had to start somewhere. It wasn't long before things took a darker turn. As I was briefing my team, the thought struck me. We needed to search the house again, top to bottom, just in case. Hours had already passed since JonBenet had supposedly been taken, but something told me we couldn't afford to overlook anything. I gave the order and we moved quickly. John Ramsey himself led us down to the basement. That's when I saw it, a small, lifeless form beneath a white blanket in the cold of the wine cellar. My heart sank. It was JonBenet, her body twisted, a garrote around her neck, her wrists bound. The delicate beauty queen was gone, and this wasn't the work of a professional kidnapper. It was something far worse. There were bruises, indications of a severe head injury, and strangulation. This wasn't just a botched kidnapping, it was murder. The evidence started piling up, but it was all tangled. The ransom note, why would someone take the time to write it in the house if they had kidnapped JonBenet? There were also signs of a possible struggle in her bedroom, but none of it matched the brutal scene in the basement. Something about it all seemed too staged, too deliberate. And then there were the parents. Their grief felt genuine, but there was a disconnect between their words and their actions. As we processed the house, we discovered more troubling details. The rope used to strangle JonBenet was made from a paintbrush found in the house, and there was a partially eaten pineapple in the kitchen. Oddly, the fingerprints on the bowl matched JonBenet's brother, Burke Ramsey, but he had been asleep, or so the family claimed. The autopsy revealed more disturbing findings. JonBenet had been hit in the head with great force, possibly a blunt object, and then strangled. There were indications of SA, though nothing conclusive enough to point to a clear suspect. We scoured the house for DNA evidence, but all we found were fragments, small, incomplete clues that led us in circles. Over the next few days, the media descended like vultures. The case gripped the nation. How could a little girl be murdered in her own home and no one hear a thing? Rumors started swirling, each more sensational than the last. Some pointed fingers at John and Patsy Ramsey, accusing them of covering up an accident. Others speculated that Burke had been involved despite his young age. Still, others believed in an intruder theory, claiming someone had slipped in through a basement window. I worked night and day, chasing every lead, but nothing added up. DNA testing in the house came back inconclusive. The ransom note's handwriting didn't match anyone in the family, but it also didn't fit any known suspects. Every avenue led to a dead end. As the days stretched into weeks, the case seemed to grow colder by the minute. Years passed, and still, we had no answers. The Ramseys moved away, constantly under a cloud of suspicion. The town never felt the same. Everyone had an opinion, everyone had a theory, but the truth remained just out of reach. We tested more DNA in 2008, finding an unknown male profile, but it didn't bring us closer to solving the crime. The media eventually shifted its focus, but the case continued to haunt me. JonBenet's case remains unsolved. She was more than a little girl in the pageant dresses, more than the victim at the heart of a tabloid story. She was an innocent child whose life was stolen in the dark of a winter night.